Welcome to part 2 of this series on how different traditions view related herbs. In this video I look at Black Cohosh and Sheng Ma. As in the previous video in this series, what links these two herbs is that they both belong to the same botanical genus, Actaea. Both herbs were discovered independently in cultures that had no contact with each other. This slide shows the species that have been used for herbal treatment. I'll start with the North American species Actaea racemosa or Black Cohosh. The word cohosh probably comes from the Algonquian word meaning rough. Black Cohosh is found almost exclusively in the eastern part of North America. First, a word about the genus. For many years, Black Cohosh was placed in the genus Cimicifuga. Cimicifuga comes from the Latin for insect and to flee, and this coincides with one of the alternative common names for the herb, bugbane. Although Black Cohosh itself doesn't have a strong odor, the smell of other species in its genus were powerful enough to keep insects at bay. In 1999, it was moved back into the genus Actaea after DNA studies by James Compton and his colleagues at the University of Reading. And because things move slowly in the field of herbalism, most texts still place it in Cimicifuga. For more information, read Stephen Foster's article on this referenced below. As you can see on this slide, there are at least 4 types of cohosh. Some sources also talk of yellow cohosh, Actaea podocarpa. It's worth noting that blue cohosh belongs to a completely different genus, although it is often used together with black cohosh. Red cohosh is poisonous. There's conflicting information concerning white cohosh. Many sources state that it is poisonous. However, the Native American Ethnobotany database records the use of Actaea pachypoda by Blackfoot, Cherokee, Iroquois, and Meskwaki tribes for diverse treatments. King's Dispensatory mentions white, blue, and black cohosh. I will mainly be considering black cohosh, or Actaea racemosa, in this discussion. Again, most of our information concerning the use of this herb comes from the Cherokee, Delaware, and Iroquois Native American tribes. Black cohosh was used as a tonic, an analgesic, and an anti-rheumatic. It was used as a cold remedy and to treat coughs. It was also used as a diuretic and laxative. For women, it was used to help in breastfeeding, and in greater doses as an abortifacient. For completeness, I'll add that Michael Moore documents the use of Actaea elata and laciniata in the Pacific West as being anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, and sedative, as well as being useful for menopause and hot flashes. In the 19th century, Black Cohosh was championed by Dr. King and enthusiastically promoted by the eclectics who called it macrotis. Apart from its nervine and digestive properties, it was especially favored for its gynecological role in treating dysmenorrhea and in regulating uterine contractions before confinement. It became especially popular when Lydia Pinkham manufactured a compound containing Black Cohosh, butterfly milkweed, and fenugreek to treat women's problems. She was a pioneer in talking openly about these topics in an era when these kinds of discussions were avoided. Her compound is still available for sale to this day, as well as a number of other Black Cohosh-based products. Black Cohosh consists of many complex products that are not easy to analyze. These are some of the chemical compounds that may contribute to its medical properties. Triterpene glycosides that act as an anti-inflammatory and regulate the immune system, phenolic acids that prevent cellular damage, and alkaloids which act on the central nervous system. Other components include tannins, volatile oils, resins, starch, and sucrose. In these days, Black Cohosh is mainly used to help with symptoms associated with menopause. That's to say, hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, and irritability. It has no detectable phytoestrogens and is often used as an alternative to hormone replacement treatment. It is sometimes used as a muscle relaxant. Black Cohosh is one of the most popular herbs among all contemporary herbalists. Rosemary Gladstar says that Black Cohosh maintains its effects through its estrogen-like action. It has a regulating and normalizing effect on hormone production and is often used in formulas to balance and regulate female hormones. Matthew Wood reiterates that Black Cohosh is to American Indian medicine the single most important herb for menstrual and female problems. So here you can see Actaea racemosa and Actaea dahorica side by side. One thing worth mentioning is that my Black Cohosh was supplied in a little plastic bag, while the Chinese herb came in a folded paper, as do all my Chinese herbs. So perhaps suppliers of Western herbs could learn something here. The Black Cohosh comes relatively finely ground, so that it can be readily used as an infusion. The Sheng Ma from my Chinese supplier comes in slightly larger pieces, so the quality is more evident. Exceptionally, I will refer to Sheng Ma by its old genus name, Cimicifuga, as all documentation that I have seen so far uses that name. Another important note is that Bensky refers to this herb as Black Cohosh. It is not the same species, and as we'll see in a moment, the properties don't match. In traditional Chinese medicine, Sheng Ma is sweet, acrid, and slightly cold. It is associated with the large intestine, lungs, spleen, and stomach. The herb is categorized as an exterior-releasing herb. The herb's name means rising hemp, which clues us into how TCM views its main properties. Sheng Ma upbears yang and raises what has sunk. It expels papules, alleviates fever, and resolves toxicity. In one of my previous videos, I explained that the herbs in a formula can be assigned to the roles of Jun, or sovereign herb, Chen, or minister herb, Zuo, or assistant herb, and Shi, or messenger herb. The most important role of Sheng Ma is seen as that of a guiding herb. Sheng Ma helps to raise qi. It is an unusual herb in that the property of raising is usually associated with the flowers, leaves, or twigs of the plant, rather than with the root. Also, the raising property is more often associated with herbs that are pungent, sweet, and warm or hot, whereas this is seen as a cooling herb. Both Zhang Yuansu and Li Shizhen emphasized its use in helping to tonify the spleen and stomach, especially for the elderly. And in particular, you can see this role in the formula Tang that I have covered in a previous video. In contrast to Black Cohosh, Chinese doctors almost never mention this herb for any gynecological use. This video is the second in my series on how herbs in the same genus are viewed by different traditions. In contrast to my video on Angelica, where different species were recognized as useful for gynecological purposes by disparate cultures, this video shows two species within the genus Actaea, where different cultures have recognized completely unrelated properties. I will follow up with a video where I will look at some other interesting conclusions. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you'll join me for other videos in this series.